Have you ever noticed how a single health headline can linger in your mind longer than it should, especially late at night when everything is quiet? One of my patients once looked at me and said, "I do not know what worries me more, the illness itself, or the feeling that I do not fully understand it." Now I want you to imagine this for a moment. You are sitting comfortably, listening to a calm conversation that helps your body and mind settle instead of stirring more questions. I am Dr. Evelyn Carter, and for many years I have cared for older adults who value clarity, routine, and emotional safety just as much as physical health. When unfamiliar health news appears, especially words like virus or outbreak, it can feel unsettling. That feeling is very human. It is even more common when memory, sleep, or anxiety already feel delicate. Today, I want to slow things down and talk with you, not at you, about the Nipah virus and why fruit bats are sometimes mentioned in the same sentence. The Nipah virus is not new, and it is not something most people encounter in daily life, especially here in the United States. From both medical science and real caregiving experience, I have learned that calm understanding protects the aging body far better than constant alertness. Our nervous system responds to reassurance. When the mind feels safe, the body functions more smoothly. Fruit bats are part of nature, not something to fear. Scientists study them because bats can carry certain viruses without becoming ill, which helps researchers understand how diseases move through the environment. Knowledge like this gives dignity. When we understand how something works, the body relaxes and routines remain steady. Public health systems quietly monitor these situations every day. You are not responsible for managing global risks. Your role is to live well, follow ordinary hygiene, and trust steady medical guidance. If this kind of calm explanation helps you, I invite you to subscribe, like, and share Senior Health Daily so we can continue these conversations together. In the next part, we will move gently forward, focusing on facts, patience, and emotional safety, just as I would if we were sitting together in my office. What the Nipah virus is. As we move forward together, I want to begin by gently clarifying what the Nipah virus actually is, because understanding always brings more peace than uncertainty. The Nipah virus is a virus that primarily lives in animals, not in people. In medicine, we call this a zoonotic virus, which simply means it originates in animals and only rarely crosses into humans. I emphasize the word rarely, because that detail matters deeply for emotional safety, especially as we grow older and become more sensitive to stress, sleep disruption, and worry. Over the years, I have cared for many older patients who became anxious after hearing about unfamiliar illnesses on the news. What I learned very early in my career is that the human body responds not just to illness, but to how we think about illness. When something feels mysterious or exaggerated in our minds, the nervous system stays tense. That tension alone can weaken immunity, affect memory, and disturb daily routines. From a scientific perspective, the Nipah virus does not spread easily. It does not move casually from person to person the way seasonal colds or flu often do. Research shows that transmission usually requires very close and unusual contact, often involving exposure to infected animal fluids or prolonged caregiving contact without protection in specific outbreak settings. These conditions are not part of everyday life for most people, especially older adults living in stable environments. This is important because peace of mind supports physical health. When we understand that a virus has narrow pathways, the body relaxes, the heart rate steadies, sleep comes more easily. These are not small things. In dementia care especially, calm explanations reduce confusion and help preserve dignity. I also want to share something from long years of caregiving. Many seniors worry that aging means becoming vulnerable to everything. That simply is not true. Aging means the body changes its pace, not its wisdom. When information is presented gently and accurately, older adults often handle it better than younger people because they know how to listen without the panic. So when we talk about the Nipah virus, We are not talking about an invisible threat moving through daily life. We are talking about a well-studied virus that scientists monitor carefully, one that teaches us how closely human health is connected to nature and routine. And that understanding is the foundation for everything else we will explore together. Why fruit bats are studied. When people hear the words fruit bat connected to a virus, it can immediately stir unease. I understand that reaction, especially among older adults who have lived long enough to know how quickly worry can take hold. But I want to gently reframe how we think about fruit bats, because in medicine and science, context matters. Fruit bats are part of healthy ecosystems. They pollinate plants, spread seeds, and help forests regenerate. Long before modern cities existed, bats were quietly doing this work at night, supporting balance in nature. They are not invaders of human life. They are neighbors in the natural world, and most of the time, we live alongside them without incident. What makes fruit bats especially interesting to researchers is not danger, but resilience. Their immune systems work differently from ours. While humans often respond to viruses with strong inflammation that causes symptoms, bats tend to tolerate viruses without becoming sick. Scientists believe this is because bats have immune responses that stay active but controlled, allowing them to coexist with viruses rather than fight them aggressively. This difference teaches medicine something valuable. By studying how bats manage viruses calmly, researchers gain insight into how inflammation affects disease in humans. In simple terms, bats help scientists understand why some immune responses protect us while others cause harm. That knowledge supports the development of better treatments, better monitoring, and better prevention strategies. From my experience caring for seniors, I find this lesson deeply meaningful. Aging bodies also benefit from balance rather than overreaction. Excess stress, constant alarm, and fear-driven thinking can trigger inflammation that worsens joint pain, memory problems, and fatigue. Calm awareness supports health far better than fear ever could. When scientists study fruit bats, they are not pointing fingers at nature. They are learning how nature maintains balance. Problems only arise when natural boundaries are disrupted, such as when wildlife habitats are pushed too close to human living spaces or food systems. Even then, public health responses focus on prevention and education, not blame. For older adults, this perspective is grounding. It reminds us that the world is not suddenly more dangerous because we learned something new. It means we understand it better. Respecting nature includes respecting our own nervous systems. When we replace fear with understanding, routines remain steady, sleep improves, and the mind feels safer. In dementia care especially, this approach matters. Calm explanations preserve trust. Respect for nature mirrors respect for aging bodies. Both thrive when we move slowly, listen carefully, and allow knowledge to settle without urgency. How transmission happens. One of the most important things I want you to understand is how Nipah virus transmission actually happens, because clarity here brings a deep sense of grounding. Nipah does not spread casually the way a cold or seasonal flu does. It does not move easily through everyday conversation, shared air in public spaces, or brief contact. That distinction alone helps the body relax. In past outbreaks studied by doctors and scientists, transmission followed very specific paths. Most cases occurred when people had close contact with infected animals or consumed food that had been contaminated in very particular ways. For example, in some rural regions, raw fruit or sap was exposed overnight in areas where fruit bats fed. When that food was later consumed without washing or cooking, the virus had a rare opportunity to pass into the human body. These situations were not random. They were highly localized and linked to specific habits. There have also been instances where transmission occurred between people, but again, only under unusual conditions. This typically involved prolonged close caregiving contact without protective measures, often in hospital or family care settings during an active outbreak. This is very different from the way common respiratory illnesses spread. It requires time, closeness, and exposure to bodily fluids, not brief encounters. I share this because many older adults I have cared for, assume that any virus mentioned in the news must be circulating everywhere. That assumption alone can raise anxiety, disrupt sleep, and increase physical tension. Science tells a different story. Nipah virus transmission is uncommon and tightly linked to specific circumstances that public health teams monitor carefully. As we age, our sense of safety becomes closely tied to routine. Knowing that everyday activities like walking outside, shopping, or visiting family do not place you at risk allows those routines to remain intact. This is especially important for individuals living with memory changes. A stable sense of safety supports orientation, trust, and emotional balance. From a caregiving perspective, I have seen how calm explanations reduce fear-based thinking. When older adults understand that a virus has narrow and well-defined pathways, their breathing slows, their posture softens. The mind stops scanning for danger. These physical responses matter because stress itself can weaken immunity and worsen chronic conditions. So when we talk about Nipah virus transmission, we are not describing something hidden in daily life. We are describing a virus that needs very specific conditions to move, conditions that are well known and actively managed. That knowledge allows you to remain grounded, confident, and focused on what truly protects health. Patience, routine, and trust in careful science continue to be your strongest allies. Aging and the immune system. As we grow older, the immune system changes in quiet and predictable ways. This is something I have observed not only in medical textbooks, but in thousands of real conversations with older adults sitting across from me in the exam room. Aging does not mean the immune system stops working. It means it works differently, with more experience, and sometimes with a slower response. What truly affects immunity in seniors is not exposure to rare viruses, but ongoing stress. I have seen many patients whose blood pressure, sleep quality, and memory worsen during periods of prolonged worry. The body cannot tell the difference between emotional stress and physical threat. When the mind stays tense, the immune system stays on edge, using energy that should be supporting repair and balance. Calm routines do the opposite. Regular meals, familiar movement, steady sleep times, and predictable daily rhythms help the immune system function efficiently. These routines signal safety to the brain. When the brain feels safe, inflammation decreases. This is supported by simple science, showing that chronic stress hormones interfere with immune signaling and increase inflammation in the body. For seniors, this connection is especially important for memory and balance. Poor sleep and heightened stress can worsen forgetfulness and increase the risk of falls. In dementia care, we know that emotional calm preserves cognitive function far more effectively than constant correction or vigilance. A calm environment allows the brain to conserve energy for thinking, recalling, and navigating daily life. From my clinical experience, I can tell you that older adults who feel reassured about their health tend to heal better from everyday illnesses. They recover faster, tolerate medications more easily, and maintain independence longer. Worry does not strengthen the immune system. Understanding does. This is why I encourage older adults to focus their attention on what truly supports health. Eating nourishing foods, staying gently active, maintaining social connection, and protecting sleep are far more powerful than monitoring rare health threats. These habits build resilience quietly over time. When we discuss viruses like Nipah, it is not to add another concern to your life. It is to place it in proper perspective. Your immune system responds best when your life remains steady and your mind feels at ease. Calm routines are not small comforts. They are essential medicine for aging with dignity, clarity, and confidence. What science learned from past outbreaks. When scientists look back at past Nipah outbreaks, the lessons are steady and reassuring. What protected people most was not panic or drastic change, but early detection, careful food practices, and thoughtful caregiving. These are the same quiet protections that support senior health every day. Early detection mattered because it allowed health teams to act before confusion spread. Doctors learned to recognize symptoms quickly and confirm diagnoses with reliable testing. When cases were identified early, exposure was limited and care was more focused. This kind of watchfulness is not loud or alarming. It is methodical and calm, and it gives everyone time to respond thoughtfully. Food safety was another powerful protector. In regions where outbreaks occurred, simple measures like covering food, washing produce, and avoiding raw items that could be exposed overnight reduced risk significantly. These practices are familiar to many older adults who grew up valuing careful kitchens and clean preparation. Science confirmed what experience already taught. Routine habits protect health. Caregiving precautions also worked well. When caregivers used basic protective steps during close, prolonged care, transmission slowed and often stopped. This was especially important in healthcare settings and family homes where compassion brings people close together. What stands out to me as a physician is how effective simple awareness can be. No extreme measures were required. Clear guidance and consistency made the difference. These lessons highlight something very important for seniors. You are not expected to manage health threats alone. Systems exist to protect individuals, especially elders. Public health monitoring, hospital protocols, and community education all work quietly in the background. They are designed so that daily life can continue without constant concern. In my years of practice, I have seen how reassurance improves outcomes. Older adults who trust these systems feel less burdened. Their energy stays focused on living well rather than watching for danger. This trust supports emotional balance, which in turn supports immunity and memory. Science also learned that communication matters. When information is shared clearly and without urgency, people follow guidance more easily. Confusion decreases, cooperation increases. This is especially helpful for those living with memory changes, who benefit from calm repetition rather than sudden alarms. Looking back at these outbreaks, the message is steady. Preparedness does not require fear. It requires patience, routine, and respect for simple protections that already fit into daily life. For seniors, this means continuing familiar habits and trusting that many layers of care exist to support you. Health is not maintained by vigilance alone, but by systems working together so individuals can remain calm, confident, and dignified. Staying informed without overload. One of the challenges I see most often in older adults is not a lack of information, but too much of it arriving too quickly. Health news can feel overwhelming, especially when headlines are short, urgent, and stripped of context. Over time, that constant noise can exhaust the nervous system and make it harder to focus on what truly matters for daily well-being. In my practice, I often remind patients that staying informed does not mean staying alert all the time. It means choosing calm, reliable sources and allowing information to arrive at a pace the mind can absorb. When learning feels steady rather than rushed, understanding settles in. The body relaxes. Memory holds on to what is important. This is exactly why Senior Health Daily exists. This space was created to reduce confusion, not add to it. The goal is not to react to every new headline, but to place health topics in perspective, especially for older adults who value clarity, dignity, and emotional safety. Here, information is shared slowly, with care, and with respect for how aging minds and bodies process stress. Before we continue, if this video is helping you understand your health, please subscribe, like, and share Senior Health Daily. It gives us the motivation to create more life-saving content for you. Your support allows me to continue sitting with you in these conversations, offering guidance without urgency and explanation without pressure. I have seen firsthand how a trusted source can become part of a healthy routine. Many of my patients find comfort in returning to the same calm voice and familiar tone. That consistency supports emotional balance, especially for those managing memory changes or caring for loved ones with dementia. Familiarity reduces anxiety. Predictability strengthens trust. Supporting this channel is not about numbers. It is about building a community where older adults feel seen and supported. When you share this space with others, you are offering them the same reassurance you are receiving. That shared calm has real value. As we continue, remember that your role is not to carry the weight of medical knowledge alone. You are allowed to learn at your own pace, rest when you need to, and trust that clear guidance will meet you here without noise or urgency. Everyday habits that protect seniors. When we talk about protecting health, especially in later years, the most powerful tools are often the simplest ones. Over decades of caring for older adults, I have seen again and again that everyday habits quietly do more for health than dramatic changes ever could. These habits may seem ordinary, but they are deeply protective. Simple practices like washing fruits and vegetables, keeping kitchens clean, and storing food properly support the immune system in steady ways. They reduce exposure to many common germs, not just rare ones discussed in the news. More importantly, they provide a sense of order. When the environment feels clean and predictable, the mind feels safer. Routine is not about restriction. It is about dignity. For seniors, especially those aging alone, maintaining familiar daily practices reinforces independence. Preparing a meal, cleaning the kitchen afterward, and following a regular rhythm of care sends a powerful message to the body and mind. It says, I am capable. I am caring for myself. That sense of competence supports emotional health as much as physical well-being. From a medical perspective, routines reduce cognitive load. When tasks follow a familiar pattern, the brain uses less energy to make decisions. This is especially important for individuals experiencing memory changes. Familiar routines allow the brain to function more smoothly, preserving attention and confidence. I have worked with many older adults who lived alone and took great pride in their daily habits. They often told me that these routines anchored their day. Even on difficult mornings, the act of washing dishes or wiping a counter gave them a sense of normalcy. Science supports this experience. Predictable routines lower stress hormones and support better sleep, which in turn strengthens immunity. Clean kitchens also protect against common food-borne illnesses that can be harder on aging bodies. The immune system may respond more slowly with age, making prevention especially valuable. These simple steps reduce unnecessary strain and help maintain energy for the things that bring joy. What matters most is not perfection, but consistency. A steady routine offers reassurance. It creates a feeling of safety that carries into other parts of life. For seniors, these everyday habits are not small tasks. They are acts of self-respect that protect independence, confidence, and dignity. By focusing on what you can control in your immediate environment, you create a foundation of health that supports you quietly each day. And that foundation is far more powerful than worrying about distant risks beyond your reach. Dementia, care, and gentle communication. When caring for someone living with memory changes, the way information is shared matters just as much as the information itself. Over the years, I have seen how fear-based messages can quickly worsen confusion. A raised voice, a sense of urgency, or alarming language can make the mind feel threatened, even when no immediate danger exists. The brain affected by dementia works differently. It processes emotion faster than facts. This means that tone, facial expression, and pacing often carry more weight than the words themselves. When information is delivered with tension, the person may not understand the details, but they will feel the stress. That stress can lead to agitation, withdrawal, or loss of trust. Reassurance is one of the most powerful tools in dementia care. Simple phrases spoken calmly and repeated as needed help the brain feel oriented and safe. Repetition is not a failure of understanding. It is a support. Each gentle reminder allows the nervous system to settle again. Over time, this creates a sense of continuity even when memory fades. From my caregiving experience, I have learned that explaining less often helps more. Instead of offering long explanations about health topics or distant risks, focusing on what is happening right now keeps the mind grounded. Saying that everything is being taken care of and that there is nothing they need to worry about often brings more peace than detailed information. Emotional safety preserves dignity. When a person feels safe, they are more likely to cooperate with care, eat well, and rest. This is supported by neurological research showing that stress hormones impair memory and increase confusion. Calm environments and gentle communication reduce these effects. For family members and caregivers, this approach can feel repetitive and slow, but it is deeply effective. Each calm interaction builds trust. That trust becomes the foundation for daily routines, such as meals, bathing, and rest. These routines anchor the person in a world that still feels predictable. When discussing health topics around someone with dementia, it is often best to shield them from unnecessary details. They do not need to carry the weight of understanding global health issues. They need to feel secure in their immediate surroundings. By choosing reassurance over alarm and repetition over correction, caregivers protect emotional safety. This quiet care allows individuals living with dementia to experience comfort, connection, and dignity even as memory changes. Community and shared care. As we move through later life, health is rarely something we carry alone. One of the most important truths I have learned as a physician is that well-being is collective. It grows stronger when people feel supported, seen, and connected to others who care. Many older adults tell me that physical symptoms often feel heavier when they feel alone. This is not just an emotional observation. Science supports it. Research consistently shows that social connection plays a powerful role in cognitive health. Seniors who feel supported tend to have better memory, steadier moods, and a slower decline in thinking skills. Isolation, on the other hand, increases stress hormones and accelerates cognitive strain. Community does not have to be large or loud. It can be as simple as knowing there is a place to return to, a familiar voice to listen to, or a shared understanding that someone else is paying attention. That sense of belonging calms the nervous system. When the nervous system feels calm, the brain works more efficiently. I have seen this clearly in my patients. Those who felt part of a community, whether through family, neighbors, or trusted health spaces, approached aging with more confidence. They were more willing to ask questions, follow routines, and care for themselves gently. They did not feel they had to manage everything on their own. Shared care also means trusting systems designed to protect elders. Healthcare providers, public health teams, and caregivers all work together quietly. This shared responsibility allows older adults to focus on living rather than monitoring risks. It supports dignity by removing the burden of constant vigilance. For individuals living with memory changes, community is especially protective. Familiar voices and repeated connections create emotional anchors. Even when names or details fade, the feeling of being supported often remains. That feeling reduces agitation and improves cooperation with care. Staying connected to spaces that offer calm, respectful health guidance can become part of a healthy routine. It reinforces the idea that you are not navigating aging alone. Others are walking alongside you, offering steadiness rather than urgency. Health is strongest when it is shared. Feeling supported is not a luxury. It is a form of care that protects the mind, steadies the heart, and allows aging to unfold with greater peace and confidence. Trusting the body and medical care. As we come to the end of this part of our conversation, I want to speak to something deeply important. Aging brings wisdom. It brings a lifetime of experience in listening to your body, adjusting to change, and finding balance again and again. The goal of awareness is not to make life smaller. It is to help life feel steadier and more confident. Over many years in medicine, I have learned to trust the body's quiet intelligence. Even as it ages, the body continues to communicate its needs. It asks for rest when tired, nourishment when depleted, and calm when overwhelmed. When we listen with patience rather than urgency, the body often responds with resilience. Medical care exists to support that wisdom, not to replace it. Doctors, nurses, and health systems are partners in your well-being. They monitor risks, study patterns, and respond when needed so that daily life can remain familiar. This partnership allows older adults to focus on living rather than watching for problems. Awareness becomes harmful only when it turns into constant self-monitoring. I have seen seniors who limited their activities out of fear, even when there was no real threat. Over time, that shrinking of daily life affected their strength, mood, and confidence more than any illness could have. Awareness should do the opposite. It should expand your sense of safety. Science supports this perspective. Regular movement, social interaction, and engagement with life protect cognitive function and physical strength. Avoidance weakens both. When information is placed in proper context, it frees you to keep doing the things that give meaning to your days. Trusting your body also means trusting its ability to adapt. Aging does not erase that ability, it refines it. Each year adds perspective, patience, and understanding. These qualities support health as much as any treatment. As we close this section, I want you to carry this with you. You are not fragile. You are experienced. The purpose of learning about health is not to create fear, but to strengthen confidence. With clear guidance and trusted medical care, your daily life can remain full, grounded, and dignified. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to slow everything down and simply thank you for staying with me. Listening with an open heart is already an act of care. You did not need to take notes or make changes today. Understanding alone is enough for now. When we look back at the story of the Nipah virus, it is not really a story about fear. It is a story about balance. It reminds us how nature, science, and calm caregiving work together quietly, often without us noticing. When that balance is respected, health feels steadier and life continues without disruption. I want to reassure you that you do not need to change the way you live or carry extra worry into your days. Aging bodies respond best to steadiness. Familiar routines, gentle movement, regular meals, and emotional safety are powerful protections. These simple rhythms do more for your health than constant concern ever could. For those of you caring for a loved one with memory changes, I want to speak to you directly. Your patience matters. Your calm presence matters. Even when words are forgotten, the feeling of safety remains. That sense of being cared for is one of the strongest forms of protection you can offer. Health is not about controlling every possibility. It is about trusting the body, trusting the process of care, and allowing knowledge to bring confidence rather than tension. You are not behind. You are not missing anything. You are doing enough by staying present and informed at your own pace. Senior Health Daily is here as a quiet place you can return to whenever health news feels overwhelming. You are not alone in this journey. There is no rush to understand everything at once. I invite you to stay connected with us so we can continue walking forward together with patience, dignity, and calm.